We're looking at a 1940 Ford Coupe. This car was an original shine runner back in the late 40s. The car has not seen the light of day in many, many years. It's still dusty and crusty, but this vehicle has all the original paint still on it, which is almost unheard of. The car is in fantastic shape. Very, very original. The last time it was on the road was 1957. This car belonged to my good friend and mentor, Marvin Wagner, who's unfortunately no longer with us, but we will be restoring this car in his memory. This is actually called a business coupe, and this car was known for its trunk space. It was a natural-born shine runner. People like to use these a lot to be able to load them up with moonshine, illegal whiskey, and be able to run it across state lines. Some of the typical modifications for early shine runners would be to double up the springs that were in the rear to be able to compensate for the amount of weight that they would actually carry in the trunks of the cars. With that, you needed more horsepower. So in order to do so, they would run multiple carburetor setups on the early flathead engines. This car came equipped with a flathead V8, which was Henry Ford's earliest V8. So it already had the power or good bones to start with, and they would take those bones and be able to create an engine that would really perform to be able to haul moonshine. So with this, we're actually utilizing the original numbers matching Ford flathead V860 engine. We're going to make this engine much more efficient by adding a 471 supercharger. On top of that supercharger, we're also going to be running a Phytech Easy EFI unit. So the car will be fuel injected, but we're going to keep all the originality of the car intact. So visually speaking, it will look like an early modified car utilizing the original parts, but it will have the added benefit of modern fuel injection. We will be utilizing the original paint. This paint is actually factory paint on the car, which will clean up and buff out quite well. It's the original lacquer. We will be basically cleaning up the paint. We're going to have to do some touch-up work and blending to try to utilize and keep that original paint. But with that, we will be keeping the originality of the car. Interior, we're going to restore the original interior using as much of the original upholstery and fabric as possible. Chassis modifications, we already have done a 5-inch Pete and Jake's drop front axle in the car, just to try to give us a little bit of a rake in the front and get the stance where we want it. It just makes the car a little more appealing to the eye. We're going to be running the original steel wheels for the car. The only change that we will be making is we're going to run big and little tires. The front tires are going to be quite a bit smaller than these, utilizing the original 16-inch wheel, but a much smaller white wall tire. And then in the rear, we're going to fit the fattest and tallest tire that we can get under the fenders of this car. It's going to give us a very raked appearance. The front will be low, the rear will be sitting up a little bit higher, give you that hot rod look that we're trying to go for, but still keeping the originality of the car and still making it look like something that would have been built in the late 40s, early 50s, and still utilizing the original chassis components as well. As always, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook for updates on all of our builds.